Good day, creative friends. I hope that this finds you well and ready to be inspired. So this video is going to be a little bit technical, but I promise to make it fun. And it's also for all levels, beginners included. So lately I've been interested in color studies, and I made this pie chart in my sketchbook, which taught me a lot about these paints. So I thought I would share my experiments with you because I firmly believe that knowing your colors is the basis for learning a medium, especially when it comes to watercolors, since it's such a fluid medium and the colors can easily blend with each other unexpectedly. And I thought it would also be a good way to inspire you to practice precision painting, meaning practicing getting crisp edges. So I traced a bunch of wavy lines across my paper just to make it more interesting and also easier, since I thought perhaps straight lines would be a bit more difficult. The three colors I'm using are Cascade Green and Transparent Red Oxide by Daniel Smith and Jaune Brillant No. 1 by Holbein. And I will have all the supplies listed in the description of this video as usual. Cascade Green is quite interesting. It's a color that separates into green and blue when it dries. So I will talk about that a little more, and I will also show you what it looks like when it dries in the mixing palette. It's quite interesting. And as far as my plan goes for my color theory, or the way I approach color theory, is as follows. I make sure that I represent each of these colors at their highest pigmentation or highest value, and then working my way to the lightest, and then also mixing them together at every stage possible of value with each other. And I will also introduce a little bit of black, and sometimes I use also white, but not today, and I will talk about that a little bit later. So right now I'm doing the darkest colors, and you probably have guessed, of course, because watercolor is only workable if you mix it with water. So to get the strongest value, you add just enough water to dilute the pigment and to have the paint flowing across the paper easily. And then I will start diluting the color with some more water. So when you see my hand leave the screen, like now, I'm just dipping my brush in clean water. So what I do basically is just pull from that well, that the darkest color, and then in another area I will just prepare a lightest value. And when I was talking about using white sometimes in mixing colors, this time around I didn't have to do that. I could have, but I chose not to because Jaune Brilliant is quite pastelish. It does have a bit of white in its composition, and so when you're mixing, for instance, right now I'm mixing the Cascade Green with it, it will turn it into a tint as opposed to a shade. So a tint usually has white in it, which is so much fun to experiment with. So instead of using white, I was able to use the same color that I had in my trio. And then if I wanted to create a shade of that same color, I would simply add a little bit of black. So really the possibilities are endless, because you can also dilute that same color that you just created. So it goes on and on and on. And from that same color, I decided to pull in more yellow into it. So it's essentially still the same colors, the yellow mixed with the green, and then adding a little bit more yellow to change the temperature of the mix. So all of a sudden it becomes a bit warmer. Still keeping with these two colors, the green and the yellow, if I use them with higher pigmentation, then it obviously becomes more opaque and a little bit more intense. But it's still quite different, if you notice, than the original straight up green that I started with. For the transparent red oxide, instead of mixing it right away with another color, I decided to keep adding more and more water. So I think I'm going to create 2 more values, and they're going to be obviously from darkest to lightest. And when I'm doing this, I'm going to talk a bit about precision painting. As you can see, my paintbrush has started wobbling. That's because I was pulling towards me as opposed to pulling away, and also at a slight angle. So it's very, and I do this because I'm filming and I don't want to move. I don't want to have to keep shifting my paper around so as not to make you too seasick, but sometimes I don't have a choice. But of course, if you're doing this at home and you're not filming, then you can just find a way that is the most comfortable for you. And for me, it is to pull away from myself and also at a slight angle. So here I am further diluting this color, so you're going to see that it's going to go very light. Okay, now we're getting into the interesting part. Mixing the red oxide with the green. Now obviously these 2 colors are kind of like opposite on the color wheel. So obviously if you mix them together, you're going to sort of neutralize them. Or some people say it creates mud, but I think you're just creating a neutral color out of the same colors that you're using consistently on the painting. So I think it still looks harmonious. And of course, from that mix, you can just keep on adding more green or more red. And so you can go from a wide range of sort of this faded green or faded brown to a more vivid brown, or maybe even, if you're lucky, kind of like an olive green, like a washed out olive green. So again, experiment, have fun, just play with your colors. Alright, so now time to experiment with black. I chose Lunar Black because it's also a granulating color, and I thought while I'm experimenting, I might as well push it a step further. And I will have to correct that color because I thought I added too much black for my taste. So not a big problem because my paint on the paper is still wet. I can still do that. So just adding a little bit of green. And I love that color. So essentially what that creates is a shade of that Cascade Green. I believe I added too much water into the mix. I wanted that color to be darker. So I'm going to saturate my paintbrush and just drop the color to intensify it, and as opposed to dragging it across the layer. As you can see, it's quite liquidy. So I'm just having fun is switching it, switching it around, tilting the board. That, however, because it's fully saturated, will create a harsh line. As you can see, it's already forming right now, which I don't mind because this is an experiment. Yes, it is a painting, but it's also an experiment, but it also fits the mood of it because we're not doing super straight lines. I welcome the variation. I love that warm gray that's been created by mixing the black and the yellow. And when you think about it, grays can be so easily achieved with just a few colors. So yes, for consistency reasons, I know how people can buy grays or other colors that are composed of more than one color or more than one pigment. But it's also quite empowering to be able to mix your colors. But I mean, I do understand. I do have gray in my arsenal, by the way. But if I were to do a huge painting, I would probably go out and buy the shade of or the gray that I want. But for this, it's kind of fun to be able to create your own colors. So as you can see right below that yellow, which was the straight up full-blown, like the darkest of this yellow, then I created a warm green, a warm gray, and then I added more black, and all of a sudden it becomes a cool gray. And I actually love these three colors together. There's something about it that's appealing. It's very neutral, but it's also so calming. I'm mixing the yellow with the transparent red oxide. These two are fun to play with. Of course, I'm going to get tints of ranging from pumpkin to peach, if we want to stay in the food family. I want to show you this Cascade Green. I did not add that blue. This is how it separates when it starts drying. It's so fascinating, and I tried to pick the blue up in an exercise when I did it on Patreon, and it's very difficult to just grab. It seems it's only the top layer, so as soon as you put the brush in the mix, it just you obviously grab the green at the same time, so it's very difficult to isolate just the blue. But the shade is quite interesting. You would never think that it's that shade of blue that's in the Cascade Green. Throughout the whole painting, I was trying to figure out how to add gold to this because you know me. I really want to have gold on there, and there's something about gold and the yellow and the gray that's so appealing to me. But I didn't want to detract the attention from the fact that we've created gradients of colors. If that makes any sense. So I thought rings would probably be better. So I used my circle template and I just traced the circles with a pencil and then filled those in with pale gold. And then for the doodles, I kept it really simple. Again, in an effort not to detract the attention too much or to attract the attention too much. So just a few simple doodles. And then later on, I'm going to add some dots, very little, inside the circles. And that's it. We're done. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope that this will give you the courage to play with your paints. Keep it simple. You don't have to use wavy lines like I did. You can use all kinds of shapes, circles, squares, whatever. Just play around with them and you will discover the true potential of your watercolor paints. I mean, they're not cheap, so we might as well maximize them, right? So if we can create a whole bunch of colors with the little that we have, and I think it's fantastic. Don't forget to check out the description for the list of supplies as well as for the links to my social media. I obviously want to say a huge thank you to my awesome patrons who support my art over at Patreon. Thank you all so very much for watching, and please stay safe, healthy, keep creating, and I will see you soon.